Welcome to the Leadership Expose podcast. This podcast is for purpose-driven leaders at diverse levels and organizations around the world who are seeking to scale and transform their leadership, to level up their business, and to create an impact in the lives of people all around them. Business and boardroom topics, trends, innovation, transformation, and the intersection with leadership is the focus. We enable success. I'm your host, Stephen Paul. In this episode, we meet Mark Costello, co-founder and chief executive officer of Hubb. Mark has held senior roles in some of UK's largest insurance broking houses, as well as at some of the regional brokers. We will hear about his journey, his executive role, and how he has navigated through sales and marketing leadership roles and in product and distribution design roles, whilst also addressing some of the trends that's happening currently. Mark, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, Stephen. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Mark, we were just exchanging where we're based before the podcast. For our audience, do you want to share where you're based?
Yeah, so I live in a farm about 25 miles outside of Edinburgh, 30 miles outside of Glasgow. And work from home predominantly, but travel a lot to our offices in Glasgow and London.
Awesome. We're curious to hear about your journey, Mark. Tell us where it all began and the intersection with your professional journey as well.
Yeah, so I grew up in Scotland, done the student bit, and then I found myself working at Royal Sun Alliance, and like pretty much everyone else, I didn't really choose to work in insurance. You just kind of fall into it. And then I done a big stint in London, working for some big dynamic broken houses, which was amazing education. And quite a shock, right? Moving to London from a provincial town in Scotland was an eye-opener.
Yeah. And you've been through different domains within insurance as well, sales, marketing. Do you find that, differences between those two and, products and distribution, design? So kind of the different value, the different phases of value chain as well that you've been through.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, I think that I think this in any organization, and any field, although I've only worked in insurance, right? So I might be wrong, but I think that to truly understand what your product is, you've got to truly understand what the customer is, right? And I don't think, unless you've spent, and I'm not saying that everybody has to come from a sales background to progress, because that isn't the case, right? But I think you really have to have understood what the customer wants, regardless of what side of the value chain you come from, to truly make a difference to the customer.
Yeah, wonderful. And tell us a little bit more about your focus currently. You're the co-founder and CEO of Hubb. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that shapes into the organization.
Yeah, okay. So Hubb's been a journey. And my focus at the moment is really shaping the strategy going forward and really helping let my team get on with running the business, and really creating so two things: focus on strategy and focus on culture, because I think the two are hugely important. But I think culture eats strategy for lunch every day of the week. That's the truth.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about Hubb. What's the model that you're promoting?
Okay, so having spent my whole career working in brokers and seeing how the dynamics of what a broker is have changed over time, and how their positioning in the marketplace has changed, I identified what I felt was a gap in the market. And really what we've set out to do is build a platform that automates all of the manual tasks involved in being a broker, and it returns insurance skilled staff to really high value tasks. So I suppose I need to break down what that means. I believe that that automation is not easy, right? So what we are doing is using AI to basically become the broker to the point where the tech can't do it anymore, and
Yeah.
then the human broker takes over and does those high value tasks. Now, where we are in our journey, we've eliminated in a small segment of the market
Yeah.
about 85% of the manual tasks.
Yeah.
And what that also does, not only does it give the customer a much speedier resolution to what they want, whether it's buying insurance or getting a claim paid, but what it also does is, as I said, giving our staff the opportunity to do high value tasks more and more and more, so they're not shuffling bits of paper about. But what it also does is it eliminates errors and omissions. Because if you think about what a broker is, and that's insurance, stocks, commodities, they're a person that sits in the middle of two parties
Yeah.
and resolves both sides of the party's needs. So the insurer needs this amount of premium for that amount of risk, and the customer wants to get the right cover at a reasonable price. And what we've done is we've eliminated lots and lots of errors and omissions that can happen because people forget to do stuff. They spell something wrong, so there you get more workaround. So our team are then doing more administration because they've spelled something wrong. We're using open source data to scrape a lot of the customer's proprietary information so that that can't happen. And basically what we are is a marketplace, right? We're bringing buyer and seller together. That's what we do. And the more we can automate that, the more everybody in the value chain, because we can work for less as the intermediary, the man in the middle, the marketplace, because we can work for much less, the insurer should get more premium, that they retain more of the premium. So they've got a better opportunity to make profit. And the customer should get a better price as well, because we can take less from the transaction.
Yeah, and wonderful. And you mentioned about the marketplace. So if I was a business looking to leverage Hubb, how would that conversation between you and I sound like?
Yeah, that's a good question. So traditionally, and I've been there and done this, the broker goes out to the customer's premises. They start scribbling down in a bit of paper all the information about that customer, and that takes forever. And then they talk about their insurance requirements and needs, and then they take it from there. Where we've changed that dynamic, we don't go and see people at their premises, A, because we don't have the time to do it, and B, because the customer doesn't have the time to do it, right? So what we've done is created a dynamic open source data lake. So we get the customers, all the directors, we know when they were formed, we know where they're based, we know their turnover as is up to date on Companies House. We know how many staff they've got because we can suck that information out. We can start sucking social sentiment about that customer. So we can really just cut out all of that data grab, and just get to the nub of the conversation. And that is, what risks do you have?
Yeah.
And what do you need to protect? So it becomes a much quicker process.
Yeah. Go on.
And the customer seems to like that, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had a few people say to me, "Oh, that all seems a bit big brothery," right? But in actual fact, we work in a market which is mid-market. That's an insurance expression. And the SME, we are more in the M than the S. So it's people spending about 10 to 20,000 pounds a year. The person that runs that business, like me, who's running a business in that same space, does not have time to stop for a cup of coffee, right? They really are busy people. That fact that we're expediting all that for them is a huge benefit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to comment as you were describing about the customer side of things as well. I mean, like the intersection between, your AI enabler and your customer experience is tremendous. And I'm an influencer of AI myself, and we are in the midst of this 4.0 revolution at the moment where all of AI and later on metaverse as well is going to be coming into play. But this is one of the elements where Hub is actually driving AI, conversational AI, bringing that customer experience. So all of what you've just described in terms of model makes innovative sense at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we've actually got, and I'm not a tech person, Stephen, right? I struggle logging on and fixing my phone when it breaks. But we've got 4 data scientists in the business,
Mm.
and we spend more on tech each month than any other space in the business because we can see the direction of travel. And it's funny you mentioned the metaverse because the metaverse is already a tool for us.
Mm.
So as I explained, we've got a home working model, but
Mm.
we've built an office in Horizon Workspace. And we have a lot of team meetings and training sessions inside the metaverse. And once you get over that goofy bit at the start about the avatars, it's far superior
Yeah.
having 8 people inside that space than it is doing it over Teams and Zoom.
Yeah.
Because, and it's really, really strange, right? Because you see these people face to face, and then you go into the Horizon Workspace with them, and like Ulrich Zink, who's our CTO, is French and is very uses his hands a lot when he speaks, not to be stereotypical, but his avatar does the same thing, right? And it
Yeah.
almost tricks your brain to think that you're actually
Yeah.
sitting in a room with them.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Mark, tell us, do you have any experiences or any stories that you can share that comes to your mind, as a leader yourself now that's resulted in a highly positive outcome, aside from some of the things that you've mentioned?
So is this more around people?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we onboarded a lot of young people. So the government done a Kickstart program, if you remember rightly, during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and we brought lots of young kids in. Some of them graduates, some of them not. And that's just been such a hugely positive experience. I mean, it's been painful, right? So some of them didn't make the grade. But what we've built is people, young people who are hugely talented. We've
Mm.
just shaped them into being part of Hub. And that experience of seeing people coming in with no experience and developing up the way
Mm.
inside the organization, that gives me more satisfaction than anything. And they then become such cheerleaders for Hub that it becomes a part of the fabric of their life. And
Yeah.
it's just fantastic to see.
Yeah, you're in essence you're in essence enabling the next generation of leaders, but bringing in your model and getting them to interface with that model as well. So I can completely relate to the satisfaction that
Yeah,
you're experiencing there.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and what are you seeing in terms of important topics or trends these days, aside from your industry that's impacting people or businesses, leaders, boards, and so forth?
So the macroeconomic position, as we all know, isn't great. And we've got well, are we in a recession? Are we not? Who knows, right? I think we are. Um, but really, that supply side issue, which, if you look at the headlines, it's all focused quite rightly on what's happened in the Ukraine and the oil and gas prices escalating. But those supply side issues and that just-in-time economy that the whole world ran on for a long time now, we now see how that supply issue and that just-in-time model, how how amazingly well it worked before, and how hard it's been to get it back up to speed. And that's a huge issue inside our space, right? So we ensure professional lines, we ensure um, intellectual property, but we ensure a lot of property and material possessions, right, that are part and parcel of a business's operation. And claims are becoming much more difficult to get resolved
Mm.
because the insurers don't have the staff to deal with it. They can't get the materials to do repair works on vehicles. They can't get resupply vehicles. So we're starting to see claims inflation. And anecdotally, from some of my partner insurers that we work with, we're
Mm.
looking at 25-30% claims inflation. So
Mm.
that's a typical claim that would have been £1,000 a year ago is now £1,300. And that's going to feed into the reinsurance markets, and treaty insurance renewals are due. We're expecting to see some upward pressure on that space as well. So, yeah, I think that, I mean, I was of the opinion that by next summer that the macro will sort itself out, because the supply chains will all start working again and competition will come back into play. And I think that's probably true to some extent still. But I find, well, we record this 10 minutes after the mini budget, as it was called.
Yeah.
And that fills me with dread, the budget that was just released. Utter dread.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting times. I mean, with all of these trends and challenges and opportunities as well, Mark, is there one thing that you can share with us on your formula to your success?
Hard work, really hard work. But ultimately, as the leader of the business, what I've realized and what I need to be humble about is that assuming you're the smartest person in the room is a bad mistake. And the biggest gift and the biggest advantage I think anybody can give their team and their own business is to give people the headroom to make mistakes and encourage them to make mistakes. Because I think fear, especially in the big corporates, fear drives everything. People are terrified of making mistakes, so they do nothing. We've grown from 3 full-time staff to 28 in 15 months because I think we give people the headroom to make mistakes.
Yeah. And with the mindset and the leadership that you have, you're basically enabling that, step by step, and you're making progress. So is it fair to say that you're actually seeing that progress, and you've mentioned that in the discussion we've just had over the last 20 minutes or so? Are you seeing and satisfied with the progress that you're?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Seeing it, satisfied by it, but also top of mind conscious that complacency is a killer. And we are a startup, or we're probably not a startup anymore. We're probably more in a growth stage. But remaining true to the principles that got us to here. And as you onboard more people, making sure that those principles that you adhere to are stuck to are hugely important. And we've made, I mean, I've made so many mistakes in this journey, right? Some of the stuff I look back at and I'm embarrassed by, but I'd never done it before, right? But I think it's important that my team see that I make mistakes. I think that's important, because they then know that when I come to them and say, look, I've made a mistake here, sorry about that, they know they're empowered to do the same thing.
Yeah. Any lessons you want to just share very quickly that you don't want to repeat?
Yes, right. Okay, so if I was meeting somebody who was a first-time founder now and they were starting out, my first, well, we've not done this really, but my first lesson is don't give away equity quick.
Yeah.
Don't try and cover up what's not good, because when you go and speak to savvy investors and you say that it's Alice in Wonderland here, right? Everything's just perfect. They don't believe you, because if you're needing to raise capital, then it isn't perfect, right? And that be honest about what you've got wrong, what you need to fix, but sell them the dream, right? Because you've got to be a bit of a dreamer if you're going to build a business from scratch and try and change an industry that's worked the same way for 200 years. Maybe you've got to be slightly mad as well. But I think that would be the one advice I would give people. And not to get yourself boxed in early. I also think in early stage startup, you should hire on attitude as opposed to ability. You can teach ability. You can't teach attitude. Hire people who are willing to say, I've no idea what you want me to do here, but I'm going to have a go, and then we'll fix it later. I always think, like everything, do something bad and then fix it quick, because it's better to do that than just plan and plan and plan and plan and plan and never execute anything.
Yeah. No, wonderful. So what is the day in the life of Mark look like these days? Morning
So
to evening?
yes. So, well, I get up about 5 o'clock, drink coffee, watch TV, get to work. It changes every day. Check in with my team, check in with individuals in the team. Make sure I try and get round all of the 28 people in the business at least once a month. Obviously, there's a senior leadership team who I'll speak to daily. And then try and get some time with my daughter, who's 4, and the best thing ever, right? And that, she causes me stress, don't get me wrong, but she's the biggest reliever of stress you could ever hope for.
Yeah. Excellent. Mark, we're coming to a close very shortly. Is there any closing messages or a challenge to other executive leaders or boards or organizations, marketplace, that you want to highlight here?
Yeah, I mean, having spent most of my life in corporate, I think people stop needing to take themselves so seriously and stop having such a huge opinion of themselves. I've seen it so many times where I've been in big organizations and leaders make decisions and it clearly isn't working, and they can't just put their hands up and go, yeah, I made a bit of a ricket there, let's try something else. But what you get, and especially in financial services, right, you get that kind of military loyalty up the scale. So everybody sits with a straight face, knowing it's going wrong, agreeing with the person at the top. You're going, and that's why I was a terrible employee, because I could never do that. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, wonderful. Mark, thank you very much for being with us today and sharing your journey, and for your insights and your lessons for other leaders as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Wonderful. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening in, and stay tuned for our next episode where we hear from the Major, retired US Army, who shares his experience on knowledge management and innovation with the Department of Defense. So stay tuned for our next episode on this, and continue to stay on to hear about an exclusive offer for you. Hey, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're now seeing this part of the video also because you consume some of my content, insights, and teachings. Maybe you've been to my LinkedIn page or website, or seen other social media ads, or listened to my podcast. I'm Stephen Paul, a business and transformational executive coach, strategic advisor, leader, and board member. I've been in diverse roles: corporate executive, entrepreneur, and worked with businesses and firms of all sizes, built and launched businesses, created high-impact boards, and so forth in 4 continents. I get it. I've been there, done that. But what is different is I bring a unique perspective and a playbook. I've helped 100+ business leaders just like you to scale and align their leadership top teams, the board, and overall business for growth. Leaders like Ivana from medium-sized company in the EU who grew 150% and expanded globally in under 5 months. After she started to work with me over facilitated sessions in an initial 3 days, I helped fine-tune their strategy and align their leadership team and board to be a cohesive driving force to achieve their dreams and outcomes. I want to teach you the same thing, and more on how to scale and align your leadership team and board so you can increase your business growth and value. Get clarity on what is the next right strategy for you. There are multiple ways we can work with you. Number 1, click the link for a free, non-obligatory 60-minute initial strategic session. Let's get a feel for your dreams, your vision, your challenges, and let me convert that into a route map for you where we can co-develop and co-pilot. Number 2, enroll in an innovative and intuitive digital online course that I have created to help you transform. It's called Unshakable Resilience. It is the ultimate program for individuals and business leaders like you who want to be equipped at a personal and professional level to respond to any form of challenges or in crisis situations and take on opportunities with grit, resilience, and build a mindset of success. In essence, you want to be unshakable, thrive in crisis, take on opportunities in the face of adversity, and build a success mindset. So, click the link below to learn more on how I can personally help you individually and your firm to scale and align your leadership team and business and pivot in a transformational way. And for you to experience this, whatever the challenge you're facing, get in touch with me. Let's discuss, and I will share my insight rapidly to enable your transformation. Click the links below.